There's a lot of stuff in this. I'm only 10 minutes into the thing. It's 33 minutes and 10 seconds. Most of the early stuff I made a short commentary on. That's the thing. People wanted to make their own assumptions and fucking run with it. I needed these people to leave me alone. So at this point in the conversation, here, let me pause it for a second.
Need to get a restraining order. And I said, okay, well, what can I do? How can I help? She goes, well, do you have any of these messages from this time or any of these messages?
And that's the point. I needed that help so that I could get protection orders from the people that were coming after me. People like Tim. There was no reason for him to harass me and threaten me. This could have all been dealt with by these people talking to me like a human being and making some effort to understand. Like, I didn't have Maddie out there selling methamphetamines. I didn't have her out there spreading rumors. That wasn't my decision. It also wasn't my decision to not know how to take screenshots. I had tried, and it always ended up adjusting the volume, which pissed me off. So, by the time it got to the point where I exposed her dad, and that's where she got a hold of Tim here, that's because I exposed her dad with an email that Natalie had sent me. I did it right on his Facebook. I did that to Ted, and I also did that to James. Now, James, if you guys paid any attention, is the guy who beat the fuck out of Jamie. I hate that guy with a passion. But I do want to believe that people can change. The problem is that they need the opportunity to change. You need to give them a chance to change. Me, I had to change. After all the shit that they put me through in Virginia, and after I left Virginia, yeah, I had to be an asshole to people. I could not physically or mentally afford to let these people continue to railroad me, continue to assault me, continue to harass me. I had to do something. And the police went out of their way in Chapel, Nebraska and Boulder, Colorado not to help. I mean, I was going out of my way to be as friendly as possible. Just be my friend for one fucking day. Just one day. Just long enough to hear me out. All right? And, well, that wasn't a happening thing. I was apparently not human enough for that. Now, she wanted to get a protection order against me, and I wanted her friends to stop harassing me, to stop calling me a stalker and a rapist, and to stop swinging at me. And that's the thing. I don't know if these were friends with Maddie or if these were friends with Natalie or not. I know that they were Maddie's friends, and I know that Natalie and Alicia were Maddie's friends. But the other thing is, I was never allowed a day in court. No matter what, I was not allowed a day in court. And had those officers actually taken my reports instead of blowing me off, then I would have had some legal recourse when this shit happened. But the other thing is, there's witnesses like Peaches that really should have come forward, you know? And she did, to some degree. And then there's Jeff Ritter, and he's got special shit that he's got to go through and paperwork that's got to be signed and all sorts of shit like that before he can say anything. And that just sucks for me because I needed him to come forward. He won't even answer his goddamn phone. But that's the big point to this, is that people's assumptions, and also Natalie wanting to do drugs and not wanting to admit it, and all sorts of shit like that. Like, really, before I exposed Ted, the first person that I exposed was Natalie. I typed out the story of what happened in Virginia right on her Facebook. And I did that with the Michelle Brannick profile. I mean, you know, this is what happened. This is what happened. This is what actually happened. So you guys need to leave me alone. And I was nice about it. It's just the fact that, you know, it's a pretty long letter. And at the very end of it, it does talk about her heroin use. Her mom finding her heroin on my birthday. And that's where everything kind of changed. Because at that point, her sister started being completely different with me and started texting me and shit. And Natalie at that point was still willing to talk to me. We had set it up that we were going to go talk on Monday. And she had been wanting to talk to me since I got to Virginia, just her and me. But she was dependent on her sister because of the accident that she had gotten in.
She is. I said, I can look, but I didn't figure that I would need them.
Uh-huh.
And she was, well, yeah, I didn't either, but now he's like, he's following me and shit, and like he's.
See, now that part right there, I didn't even know she was in Colorado at that point. I couldn't have been following her.
Actually posting things, and he's not just posting things about me, he's posting things about you, and he's like getting on my dad's page and posting things about my dad on his Facebook and stuff like that.
And I did. I let her know if she didn't call off the dogs that I was going to expose these guys, and I did. But I didn't follow her anywhere. Following her would require knowing where she lives, and I didn't. I needed these people to leave me alone, and they wouldn't, and the police would not do anything about it. They did absolutely nothing about it. They told me I needed to man up. Meanwhile, it's all over these little girls not wanting to admit that they're sinners too. I didn't say I never did anything wrong. I just said I didn't do anything wrong. Does that make sense? Of course the fuck it doesn't. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to anybody else. The fact is, the things that I did wrong were unintentional. It was that they were taken wrong. I didn't go to her house to stalk her. I went to her house because I was invited. Now, there's this one little post where, once I was already in Virginia, she said I can't just show up at her house, and that's because of her mom's opinion. And she outlined that. She explained it. Her sister actually kept inviting me to the house, Alicia. But, it sucked. I mean, I went there because she was suicidal and she needed me there. And that was her telling me that she needed me there. But all these people coming after me after she was dead, like, fuck, leave me alone, you know? I was trying to get these people to leave me alone before, and the cops wouldn't take my fucking report. They kept blowing me off until I had a severe panic attack in January. And that wasn't the last time that I spoke to the police about this. Tim Beeson, when I was told that I just needed to man up, that's after Tim Beeson was fucking threatening my life and wouldn't show up to do it.
Like that. And I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, give me a second. I'll look. And we went through, and she did eventually get everything she needed to get the protection order. But on this protection order, with this thing, the way that they did it was that she had to find a way to serve Sean herself.
And see, that's the part that sucks. Is that I needed these people to leave me alone. Natalie could have talked to me like a human being and tried to understand. We could have gone down to the police station and talked to each other and come to an understanding. I could have explained to her what was going on. But I didn't get to do that. She ended up dead. That day with the protection order, like, she's literally got help from her predators. This man is literally one of her predators. But she wanted to hide her heroin use. That's the major issue there. Just like Maddie Boa not wanting to admit that she was doing methamphetamines. Of course, I got screenshots of that.
She had to get someone herself to serve Sean.
That's insanity.
And have a witness. Yeah, dude.
See, now, isn't that insanity? That is fucking insanity. And that's part of the issue that I was having. I don't have these people's addresses. I'm not even asking for these people's addresses. I just want them to leave me alone. I just want her to call off the fucking dogs. Ask them to leave me the fuck alone. I mean, there are things that you don't accuse a man of doing unless he did them. Meanwhile, Alicia Bollinger can get up on the stand, and if she chooses to be honest, well, she'll admit that the only person who had any access to me in that fashion in Virginia was her. But they wanted to pretend. That's the thing. All of this was them playing pretend. Meanwhile, Tim Beeson at this point had already threatened my life, accused me of being on methamphetamines. Natalie had accused me of being on methamphetamines. I mean, it was basically a whole bunch of fucking bullshit that I was dealing with that I didn't fucking deserve. I was nothing but good to them. Them going out of their way to pretend like I had threatened their family is such a fucked up way to fucking end a relationship. And that's the thing. It wasn't a boyfriend girlfriend relationship. It was a you fucking were my best friend, you know? I'm here because I don't want you to fucking kill yourself. And I'm sorry Tim Beeson is a fucking douchebag. And I'm sorry that your dad is a fucking rapist. And I'm sorry that you're addicted to heroin, but damn.
Fucked up. And have a witness.
Who tells a victim of stalking that they have to serve their
predator?
Yeah.
And that's exactly my fucking point. First of all, I couldn't get any help with any of this. I had people blowing me off, treating me like I was fucking imagining this shit. Like I was imagining Tim Beeson. Like I was imagining people punching me in the face. Like I was imagining all of this. And no, it's not a figment of my fucking imagination. As far as having the victims have to do that, how fucked up is that? Like, seriously, if I have an issue with somebody and they're threatening my life, like Tim Beeson, I should be able to go to the police. And I should be able to explain to them what's going on and have them listen to me instead of trying to blow me off. Also, had I been an actual predator, how fucked up is it that she would have to serve that herself? Now, they got some other dude and an officer, Michael West, to come do this. But at no point in time were they willing to take my report about any of this fucking harassment. So I'm going to a place where I don't feel safe, and I let her know that I don't feel safe. In our text message between each other, I don't feel safe going to Boulder. That is pretty fucking plain and simple. And it was because of those rumors that I didn't feel safe going to fucking Boulder.
And here's the even more fucked up part. They put her address on the paperwork that he was...
Right? That's what I'm saying. Exactly. I said the same exact goddamn thing. Who the fuck puts her address on it? Now, it turns out it wasn't her address. Shelley told me that it's actually her grandmother's address. But that's neither here nor there. It's the fact that who the fuck does that?
He was served. They gave him her location.
What the hell?
Although it wasn't her location. But that's not the point. The point is that shit never should have been on the fucking paperwork. You know? Who the fuck does that? And that pissed me off to no end. Like, I didn't even take a look at the fucking paperwork until after she was already dead, apparently. Because I was still trying to get a fucking lawyer. Because I didn't understand that it was a temporary protection order. I didn't know there was a such thing as a temporary protection order. I thought a protection order was a protection order and that's fucking it. It was pissed me off that I had a protection order against me for a court date I hadn't been able to go to. And I was trying to get Jeff Ritter to help, and fuck, that dude was no help whatsoever. He's like, I have this friend, we can hook you up with these people through Colorado Coalition of the Homeless. And I'm like, yeah, dude, fucking way to go. Way to fucking go. Although that wasn't the only issue that I had with that protection order. See, they had to outright lie and omit information in order to get that protection order. Because, see, she didn't put on the part where she invited me to Virginia. She didn't put the part where she didn't work there when I was staying behind where she used to work. And she didn't put the part on there where her sister's idea was for me to stay back there because there was a Starbucks that her boyfriend worked at 2 doors down. They pretended like I stalked her in Virginia. And that was exactly the opposite of what was happening. I went there because she had asked me to. Because she was fucking suicidal over Tim Beeson, over Ted Bollinger, and over how her mom was fucking treating her over fucking heroin. Now, I did find out that she was still on heroin, and by that time, Sage had sent me a birthday card and was going to send me some telephones. That's, his real last name is Eder, but Joanna Taylor JoJo, the one who was trying to get me in contact with Maddie Boa to stop the fucking rumors. Yeah, that didn't get to happen. But when I was in Virginia, like a year earlier, Joanna Taylor's the one that bought that tattoo equipment from Lexi Woods. And I was going to split it with Natalie and Alicia. I was going to save some of that equipment for hooking up Mahalia Jean-Pierre, who was the other young woman I went there to see. But that's the thing. I mean, it wasn't like I just spontaneously decided that I was going to go to Virginia to stalk some little girl and molest some little girl and rape some little girl. It wasn't even like that. But the fact that she was trying to play it off that way, and with this guy, one of her very own predators. Yes, I got on her dad's site, and I exposed him with an email that she had sent, and that's why she decided that she was gonna fucking get a protection order. I exposed her predators.
I've got copies of that shit in text format.
This is when Natalie texts Sean and agrees to see him.
Immediately after he was given the protection order, because she was freaked out about having to give it to him. So I said, you know what you do? I said, you arrange to meet him, but you don't go there yourself. You send an officer in there to serve it to him. And she was like, that's a great idea. She was, yeah, I'm going to do that. She says, that same day, she goes, he's still texting me. He's like posting about me and stuff.
And that's the thing. Anybody who's looked at that can tell that Tim Beeson is lying right there, because I didn't send her any texts after that. After I was given the protection order, I stopped texting. At least to her. And I didn't text her again until the day that I found out she disappeared. And I was trying to get her somewhere safe. But these people are all fucking heroin users. Including Tim Beeson. When he's talking about his partying days, he's talking about heroin. Now for me, trying to get a court arbiter, somebody to put a buffer between me and these predators, was a pretty big pain in the ass. See, I didn't want to have anything to do with them when I left Virginia. That's why I fucking blocked them. And if it hadn't been for Maddie Boa spreading fucking rumors based off of Natalie and Alicia lying in Virginia, see, that's the thing. They were paranoid, and I was assaulted over their paranoia. I wanted it to stop, and I was very pissed off about it. Meanwhile, when she disappeared, I did everything I could to try to find her. I offered her every fucking penny that I had to get her safe. I needed that money to survive on for a month and to go see my therapist in Nebraska because Jeff Ritter was piss fucking poor. I don't mean like he's broke as a joke. I mean like the dude wasn't doing a very good fucking job.
It says on the paperwork that he's like supposed to leave me alone and yada yada. And she was, what do I do? And I said, well, you contact the police. This is their job. This is where they're supposed to be stepping in. And
Meanwhile, they didn't do their fucking jobs. They outright refused to do their fucking jobs. I just want to be left alone by these people. I was pissed off because I was served a protection order when I was told that I couldn't serve any of these people a protection order because it was out of jurisdiction. I'm like, well, jurisdiction aside, why the fuck did she get one and I didn't? It's pretty fucking... It's disturbing as shit. Meanwhile, I'm basically camping out in somebody's garage in South Denver so that I can be close enough to see my loved ones. And I'm enduring abuse at the household so that I can see my friends once in a great while. I made 2 trips to Boulder. I made one trip to Boulder because Osha was having problems. She was trying to get off of the meth and her boyfriend was beating the fuck out of her again. And I made another trip to pick up a woman named Bailey Beers. And Bailey Beers and her boyfriend just needed a place to stay for the night. They didn't have any gear. So I hooked them up with gear, which is what I did for years and years. The fact that all of this happened is fucking pathetic. It shows how fucked up our system is. How the predators are allowed to get away. How the victims have no recourse. And me and her are both victims of this. Because these people were fucking with our heads. People like Tim Beeson, but he wasn't the only one. There's also Maddie Boa. Maddie Boa needed to get off the fucking drugs is what she needed to do. She needed to stop meddling and stop fucking spreading rumors and leave me the fuck alone. And her friends needed to leave me the fuck alone. But I needed them to pretend to be my friend just long enough to hear me out. Because at this point in time, by the time I was served the protection order, I was pissed. I was fucking livid. I needed to have some legal recourse against these people and their predatory actions. At no point in time had I been asking her where she was at. I just assumed she was in Virginia. I went from Virginia to Boulder so that I could be as far away from her as possible. Meanwhile, the police did everything in their power not to help her or me. And the right thing to do in this particular situation would have been what I suggested. Her and I going down to the police shop and fucking having a conversation with an officer. Like, hey, this shit is seriously fucking happening. But I understand why she wouldn't do that. It's because she didn't want me bringing up her heroin use.
You know, doing the cop thing.
Yeah.
And she was, okay, yeah. And she gets, I guess, got a hold of them, and they went out and they talked to him. And then a couple of days later, she shoots me a message, and I'll send you screenshots of this too.
Now, mind you, the police didn't come out and talk to me. At any point in time, they made no effort to. None. They claimed that they had. Matter of fact, Amanda Jonas had made mention of something like that. Now, mind you, as far as I am in this episode 110, this is as far as I've ever gotten, because it fucking gives me the heebie-fucking-jeebies.
Of her telling me that Sean is texting her that he's like right the fuck by her house. And she's...
Alright, so that never happened. I never texted her that I was right the fuck by her house. Now, when I had made a video, it was on the way to get that protection order. So by the time she was over there peeking at my fucking videos, which is where I was talking about that, I had spoken about how when I was texting between me and her, before I got the protection order, I texted that I had walked over 60 blocks. But by the time I got there, I counted it, and I had actually walked over 100 blocks. So when she made a mention of how I had gone over 100 blocks, she's literally playing victim at this point. This is days after I had made that post. Days after it. Because I made that post before I knew it was a protection order. However, that part's not important. Tim Beeson's a chronic liar, and he's busy spinning his yarn, so let's listen to some more of it.
And she was freaking out because he's messaging her and letting her know, like, hey, I know where you live, and, like, I'm not far away.
I'm sure you've gone over the Facebook.
Meanwhile, that's not at all what happened. See, her being paranoid and her being on drugs, she was being fucking paranoid and projecting. I didn't know where the fuck she lived, and although that shit was on the fucking paperwork, I hadn't even looked at it. I didn't look at the paperwork until after she was already dead. Well, until after... At that point, all I knew is that she was missing. The very first person to actually look at that paperwork was Gibo. That's Miss Peach's brother. And he was looking at that because we were trying to help find Miss Natalie. And that's the whole point here, is that I never meant anyone any fucking harm, but people were actually harming me. And yes, I was fucking pissed. I've got people literally threatening my life over shit that I didn't fucking do. And she's getting paranoid, and they're making claims on this Sword and Scale episode like I was still trying to contact her after the protection order. I wasn't. Not until the day she disappeared. And only then, because I was worried sick. I mean, I was literally willing to go to prison to make sure that she was safe. And I still am, except I can't. She's fucking dead.
And the whole, this one person in particular.
Yes.
Yes. Can you talk a little bit about that to us? What do you know, if there's Anything that you can share with us?
We have through Facebook and all of the information that's out there, we have followed up on all of those leads. We have interviewed a lot of witnesses. Have we interviewed those folks that are on the Facebook page? Yes, and it's all part of the entire investigation that we're putting together at this point. Not ready to call anybody at this point a suspect, but it's certainly something that is going to lend itself as we investigate this further. We need to take all of this information.
Now, the big thing is establishing a timeline. The detectives in her case, now this is one of the captains or chiefs or whatever talking. He's not actually one of the investigators. The investigators were Jai Rogers, Peterson, and Hyatt. Now, Hyatt let me know later on that he was no longer involved in the case. Peterson had been fucking around with me. I'd been harassed at this point by quite a few people who were threatening my life. And people just weren't understanding that I can't be stuck out there in the open being harassed and threatened. I'd been harassed and threatened in Boulder for over a year by that point. Now, I had hoped that when I went to Boulder, people would have looked at what was going on and gone, damn, dude, that's fucked up. You know, and actually had some backup while I was there. And I had a couple of people that had tried to help me, but police along the line had gone out of their way to separate me from anybody who was willing to help me. Now, while she was able to get Tim Beeson to help her out with the taking of the screenshots, I still didn't know how to take screenshots. Not until after the Boulder police assaulted me. The way that I had been painted, it made perfect sense why people came after me. But it's the way that I was painted. I needed these people to leave me the fuck alone. And I tried to be nice about it to begin with. When it got to the point where I wanted to blow my head off in front of them, like, yeah, I needed them to leave me the fuck alone. Now, the detectives, within just a few days of Natalie disappearing, they knew that I hadn't done it. They had been in contact with my mother and told my mother that I hadn't done it. But they didn't release that to the public, now did they?
Digest it and see how it relates and how it correlates with the things that we know.
Sheriff, there was one person in particular, she had a restraining order against.
Yes.
In mid-December. Have you accounted for that?
It was actually a protection order, by the way.
That individual
we have
about the same time she disappeared.
We have talked to him, and again, not ready to call anybody a suspect, but it's certainly a piece of our investigation, a piece of our timeline.
And a very important piece of the timeline, might I add.